Hey, good morning. This is Homebody. I'm just checking to see whether it's recording, and it is. So I was supposed to do this over the weekend, but I did not. I had time, but I think I exerted a lot of energy during the day. So when I got home, I wanted to relax a little bit. So I'm back to being a little bit more active. I had taken a break from like walking and doing stuff because of my herniated disc. I believe that's what it was. My herniated disc was causing me some arm pain. So Saturday I did go for my usual walk, and I did not have a lot of pain the next day, which is awesome because I had tried to a few weeks back, and when my arm started throbbing again, I said, you know what, I'm going to take a few weeks away from activity. And so I actually went back out and took a walk Saturday. I think I took a short walk the week before too. I can't remember. I think I took a short walk last week as well, and I was fine. So I took a longer walk Saturday, and then Sunday, which was yesterday, I actually went and played tennis. So what I did was, I don't know how to play. Well, I shouldn't say I don't know how to play. I know how to play, but I'm not good. I'm just not good, right? So my nephew plays tennis, and I was like, hey, like he's taken me before, but this is right when my injury started, so I was in a lot of pain. I didn't think I was going to be in that much pain right away at that point, but I was in a lot of pain. So it is basically 2 months later, and I asked him to take me out yesterday, and we played for a little while. So what I did was I made a point. It's my left arm that's the weak arm, and this is the arm that usually has the issue. So I was hitting with my right, and my right hits are good. I have a really, a lot of strength on my right arm. What I did was I made a point to, when I was serving, I would hit with my left. I started making a point to hit with my left. My left arm is not as powerful when I hit, and I have a hard time coordinating with my left. Like I can see the ball, but when I'm trying to hit the ball with my left, I would miss. So I'm going to make a point to definitely use my left arm a little bit more. So, but I have fun. So, and I have my own tennis racket. I went to Five Below. I had my own tennis racket. I didn't use it yesterday because my nephew, he has a few, but maybe next time I'll use my own. So, but anyway, that's what I did. And then when I got home, I talked to my son for a little bit. I helped him wash his hair because he had braids, and I helped him wash and condition his hair. And then I made crab cakes yesterday. So I found a recipe, and I added my own stuff to it. So I found a recipe. I wanted to use cilantro. I love cilantro, okay? But I don't know too many dishes that I can use it in. So I know that you can use it in pho, Vietnamese soup. So I when I do make my own version of it, I use cilantro. And I found a recipe that you can use cilantro in crab cake. But I'm definitely going to find more recipes because I love the taste of cilantro. I do. I know that if you go to like Qdoba's, like they use cilantro in their rice, which I really like. But I'm trying to find some homemade recipes I can use cilantro. So I put cilantro in. I bought some crab meat in like a little jar, and I mix ground pepper, like dry pepper. I mean, not dry pepper, dry mustard, scallions, of course cilantro, mayonnaise, eggs, breadcrumbs, salt, pepper. Did I say egg? I think I said egg already. So I mix all that up, let it sit for a little bit. I fried some French fries. I sliced a lemon, like for garnish. I put a little bit more cilantro on the side. It was really, really good. And I'm actually going to that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make this the picture. I'm gonna make the picture of my food as the thumbnail. Okay, so you guys will be able to see like the picture when you click on. It's gonna be the food I made yesterday. It came out really good. I'm tired of making the same old food, heavy foods. I usually make things like fried shrimp, you know, with two sides, like a vegetable and, you know, rice or whatever. I'm just tired of making the same food. Or chicken and two sides. I'm just, yeah, I haven't made crab cakes in a long time. So, it was really refreshing. It was good. It was not a large meal. It hit the spot. And, crab meat is so expensive. That little 8-ounce jar of crab meat was $15. So that's my intro. It is 6 minutes. So I wanted to do a review on The Color Purple, which is they're doing a remake. I believe the remake will be out this year. So, and typically The Color Purple, when they played on TV, is usually around the holiday. So like Christmas, Thanksgiving. So I'm thinking if it's going to come out this year, it's going to come out late this year around the holiday. So give me a minute. I have to pick something up. I knocked over an old cable box with my foot, so I had to pick it up. So so yeah, I think it's going to come out later this year. So I'm going to do a review on the 1985 movie of The Color Purple. It's one of my favorites. I have the DVD in the living room. I actually read the book in high school. So that's good. I'm going to Wikipedia because I don't want to forget anything. I have the movie. I've watched the movie a million times. I know what the movie is about, but I don't want to miss anything. So I have it on Wikipedia on my phone as a reference guide. So the movie is the main character is Silly. Okay, Silly is a teenager. Poor baby. She's been mistreated. The movie is about Silly being mistreated, but also finding as mistreated as she is, she allows herself to be loved, and she loves people, you know, that loves her. So, but anyway, the movie opens where Silly is basically giving birth. Okay, she's having a baby. She's in a lot of pain. And once she has the baby, it seems like she wants to hold the baby and love on the baby, but her dad takes the baby and she starts to cry. Her younger sister Nettie helps her deliver the baby, and she's very upset. The baby gets taken away from her. Apparently this is the second baby that she's had that has been taken from her, and her dad is the father of her children. Okay. Her mother died. Had some kind of an illness and died young. So it is basically Silly and her sister, and I think that there are some younger siblings as well. Okay, but basically it's Silly and her sister Nettie. So at some point, Mr. That's what she calls him. He actually comes by the house, to Silly's house. He wants to marry Nettie. Nettie is the younger sister. She is the more attractive sister. Nettie is the smarter sister because Nettie is still in school. Silly has not, she's not in school anymore. Nettie is the more verbal sister, like she's the more outspoken sister because she hasn't been abused the way Silly has. Silly has been sexually abused. She's been verbally abused. Like she's just been put down. She's not in school anymore. She's been raped, basically. That's how she has her 2 children. And so Nettie is the more attractive for a lot of different reasons, but physically she's more attractive. So Mr. This is what they call him. Mr. comes by. He wants to marry Nettie. Their dad says, no, you can't have Nettie, but you can have that one, And so that's basically, how Silly meets her husband. So in the movie, she does not ride on the horse. He rides on the horse, and she basically walks. She walks beside the horse. So she doesn't even get there's no romance involved with this marriage, okay? She gets to the house in the movie, and the house is a disaster. So Mr. has children. He has at least four, let's say 3 or 4 children. And Mr.'s previous wife has ran off with some, no, she was killed. She was killed by her boyfriend or something. Something happened where she's not around. I believe she's dead. She got killed. So apparently she was messing around, got killed. So the house is a disaster. The children are not kept together. The house is a mess. And Silly gets in there and she starts cleaning the house from top to bottom. She cleans all the dishes. She scrubs the windows. The girls that Mr. has, like she does their hair. At one point, she's trying to comb the little girl's hair, and a little girl is crying because she's tender-headed. A lot of people with a certain hair type, when it's dry and you try to comb it, it can cause, like, if you're tender-headed, it can cause some pain sometimes. So typically, like what we know now, like a lot of people didn't know that back then, but what we know now is that moisture helps when you need to comb your hair. But she was kind of dry combing it, and the girl was crying, and Mr. says something to Silly like, hey, shut her up. Like, he doesn't want to hear his daughter crying. And Silly says, I can't, it's hurting her, you know, like what do you want me to do? Like, she's up, you know, I'm trying to get it combed, she's crying, you know. And Mr. doesn't like Silly saying that to him. He doesn't like her saying, he doesn't like her saying, I'm sorry, I'm just typing something. So, he doesn't like her saying, hey, it hurts her. He considers that back talk, okay? That's talking back. He slaps her and says, don't talk back to me, just do what I say. So, Silly holds the little girl's mouth like this, and she's combing the little girl's hair. So this is the start of the abuse. So Silly has come from a household where she's abused. She's pregnant. Her children are taken from her. And she goes into another, her marital home where she's being abused. So the story starts where Silly is basically writing in her journal, you know. She's writing to God. So the movie opens in the same way the book starts, is Silly is writing in her journal. And she says, Dear God, okay? And how she writes is very broken. Like she writes with broken English, and her words are not always spelled correctly. And that's because she had to stop school so young. So that's how the movie, you know, kind of starts in Silly's voice, and that's how the book goes as well. So that's her life, and the movie starts where there's a different character playing Silly, and then as Silly gets older, it's an older character playing Silly, and that older character is Whoopi Goldberg, one of my favorite, you know, actresses. But anyway, at one point, Nettie comes to the house, and she is, you know, she's looking for a place to stay because now that Silly's not there, the dad is trying to abuse Nettie. And Nettie ain't, you know, she's not someone that's willing to take it. I believe Silly was willing to take it because she wanted to protect Nettie. And because the mother is not around anymore, you know, too. So, Nettie is like, I need to get away. Like, he's trying to come after me. And, Silly asks Mr. if Nettie agrees. But Mr. has, you know, like, he has reasons for wanting Nettie to stay. And the same reason why Daddy, you know, has sinister motives is the same motives that Mr. has. He wants to sleep with Nettie, okay? So, Nettie, meanwhile, is trying to help Silly improve her writing, okay? So she's also trying to help Nettie. They play a game with the words where they write the words out, and it's almost like they make flashcards for Silly to learn how to improve her reading and writing. So Nettie is one day on her way to school, and Mr. calls himself trying to romance her. He has flowers, he's on his horse, and he is going through the woods where Nettie is walking to school, and Nettie is you know, knowing that she has to get away. She fights Mr. off and runs away. Like, she hits him with her books. Like, she has her books wrapped up with the rope, and she kind of hits him, and she runs off. She runs back to the house, and she and Nettie and Silly are hugging, crying, and Mr. comes up and basically says she gotta go. And it was a very painful thing to watch. It was very heart-wrenching. If you've ever seen the movie, it was horrible. Like, how he actually picks Nettie up and forces her off the porch, starts throwing stones at her so that she gets away from the house. Silly's in tears, Nettie's in tears, all because her body belongs to her, is the reason why she needs to leave. You know, like, it's either, okay, you don't give me what I want, you can't stay here. And it's horrible. It's a painful scene. It's the worst scene I've ever, one of the worst scenes I've ever seen, you know. And I have to say, Steven Spielberg, the book by itself is hard. It's not hard. It's a good read, right? But how Steven Spielberg was able to capture the book in the movie was awesome. And of course, he couldn't capture everything. The movie was like 3+ hours. It's a long movie, right? He wasn't able to capture everything that happened in the book. If he was able to capture everything in the book, it would have been probably an easy 2 or 3 disc set, right? But anyway, Nettie leaves, and they promise each other that they were going to write. Silly's like, write, like, she basically telling Nettie to write her. Tell her how she's doing. Update her. Let her know that she's okay. So, Nettie leaves. At one point, the mailman comes on horse and carriage, and Silly asks Mr. if any mail came for her. And he says, I done fixed that mailbox so I can tell who messed with it. So basically telling her, don't even check the mail. You're not going to know if your sister wrote you, because I'm going to check the mail, and you better not check the mail. Don't even ask me if you got a letter. So, Silly is resigned to her fate. We see the character Silly transform from a younger Silly to an older but young Silly, which is now Whoopi Goldberg. And basically the years had kind of sped up a little bit. So we're at this place where the children are grown, or they're adult. Nettie and Silly have not had any children. Silly still wonders what happened to her biological children that were taken away. She's heard that they were adopted out to a preacher and his wife. And she's at the store one day. I'm sorry, this is a part that I missed. When Silly is younger, this is before the Whoopi Goldberg character starts to play Silly, but when she's younger, she's in a store and she sees a baby that looks like it could be her baby girl. So Silly has a boy and a girl. So she sees a baby in the store that looks like it could be her baby girl, and she asks the lady what she calls her. She said, what's her name? And she says, I call her Olivia, because she looks like a older person. She has big old eyes, so she calls her Olivia. And so she holds the baby. Silly is able to hold the baby, and she smells her, and she's like, I think she's mine. She looks like she's mine. And she's just in love with this little baby. And then the woman gets done shopping, and she basically has a hard time getting the baby back from Silly. Silly is like, wants to hold this baby longer, So, but anyway, Silly has heard that her children were given away to a preacher and his wife. And but she still wonders. She wants her children. She wants to be near her sister, and she resigned to being with this nasty old little husband that she has. So, anyway, so there's a woman that visits one day. This is now, we're spat forward now to where Silly character is played by Whoopi Goldberg. And one night, Mr. comes home with this woman This woman is a mess. Okay, she's just a mess. She is sick. She's drunk. She's half out of her mind, and Mister is telling her that this woman's going to stay with them for a little while. And this woman is so like, you know, she basically comes in the house and she looks at, and Silly wants to see her eyes, okay? She wants to see this woman's eyes. And the woman says to her when she sees Silly, "You sure is ugly." And she starts laughing, okay? And so Mister takes her, you know, up into a room or whatever. And so this woman is sick, and Silly is as much as an unloved person as she is. She has love, but that's not close to her. Her sister loves her, but she's not there anymore. Her children are probably thinking about her too, but they're not there. But she doesn't have any real love in where she lives, right? So as much as she is unloved in the space and time where she is, she's very maternal. She has maternal instinct. She wants to care about people. So she actually cooks for this woman. Mister tries to cook for her, but it's horrible. He doesn't know how to cook, and it doesn't seem like he's ever tried to cook for Silly, who's been taking care of him and his children and his house. He tries to cook for this woman, and the woman throws it, and it makes a mess on the wall. Like you see the eggs and everything on the wall, because he's a horrible cook, right? He's a horrible chef. So Silly's like, "I'm going to cook." So she goes in that kitchen, and I love that scene where she's like cooking, like she's making up her eggs and her pork and everything, and she puts everything on a tray, and she slides it, you know, to the door, knocks, and leaves. And the woman actually takes it in and eats it, and she slides that tray back out when she's all, you know, when she takes the food or whatever. So at some point, you know, she bathes the woman. Like I said, the woman's not well, mentally, physically. Her name is Suge. Suge is actually a famous singer. And apparently, Suge and Mister, Silly finds out through Suge that Mister's name is Albert. Silly did not know his name. Okay, think about it. No one else called him in the house, and she didn't check the mail. And if she checked the mail, I'm not sure whether she would be able to even read his name properly. So she finds out through Suge that his name is Albert. Okay, she had been calling him Mister for years. Okay, Suge and Albert had a romance when they were younger. And it doesn't give a lot of detail in the movie, okay? But if you read the book, you will find out that Suge and Albert had a romance when they were younger. And they had children, okay? In the movie, it looks like Suge's children are her children. And you find out, it doesn't happen for a while in the movie, but you find out that the adult children that's in the church are Suge's children. But we don't know who their father is. In the movie, it explains that their father is Albert. The reason why, so they had a romance. They were not allowed to get married. Albert's dad did not like Suge. And I think a lot of it was that they had these children out of wedlock. Because Suge had her children out of wedlock, her dad is actually a preacher. The dad and her mother raised the children. And they kind of shunned Suge. That happens, you know, in a lot of religions where people shun their children for, you know, having, you know, premarital relationships. In her case, her children got raised by her parents. And so she doesn't have a strong relationship with them. But anyway, there is a scene where, so Silly and Suge, they start to bond. They start to bond as Suge is helping, as Silly is helping Suge bathe, and she starts humming, you know, a melody or whatever, and they start to hum, you know, a melody while Silly is helping her bathe in the tub. So at one point, Albert's dad comes to visit, and he's like, "You got that woman in your house, you know, she's a nasty woman." And they it's so funny that they make these comments about women being black. Like, she's black. You know, like, yeah, we're all black. You know, it's so funny how black people tend to say words like that about other black people when you're black too. But Albert's dad is very, very fair. He's very, very light skinned. And Albert is darker skinned. And Suge and Silly are darker skinned black people. He's like the Albert's dad is like fairer, the fairest black person in the movie. And it's clear, probably also in the book, that he's one of the fairest skinned black people in the book as well, besides one other character, which we'll talk about. This is going to be a long review, because it's a long book and a long movie, so I'm hoping it doesn't go quite past 30 minutes. Okay, so let's see. So anyway, he says something like about her children. He's like, she got, all these kids, I don't know how many different dads. And Albert is like, all her kids got the same daddy. I can vouch for that. It doesn't explain a lot in the movie, but the book does explain that Suge's children are with Albert. They're with Albert. But Albert's dad never, he just never took to her, So anyway, it's because she was too black for Albert. I don't know. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe he wanted a lighter skinned wife for Albert. I don't know. So, there's a scene that because Albert's dad is trash talking Suge, Silly doesn't like that. She spits in his dad's water. So that's a scene that happened in the movie. Harpo is Mr. Son. Okay, this is by the wife that got killed, that ran off and got killed. Harpo meets a woman named Sophia, who's played by Oprah Winfrey herself. Sophia is in the movie and in the book, she's a heavy woman, a chocolate woman, a beautiful woman. Okay, and Harpo just loves him some Sophia. Like, he was like, even in the movie, I could see like how much he loves her. It was like, Sophia, my, what a pretty name. He just loved him some Sophia. Albert does not like Sophia. Okay, Sophia is outspoken. Okay, she's not, gonna hold her. She loves Harpo, but she's not going to sacrifice herself for anybody. And it comes out that Sophia, she was abused in her childhood home. It was a lot of boys, a lot of men, and she was sexually abused. She was abused, and she did not want to carry that over into her marital home. And Harpo doesn't know how to deal with a woman like that. She's a strong woman. She loves him, but she's like, look, let's, like, she is a woman that knows what she wants. And at one point, Harpo asks Silly what to do. Like, what am I going to do with her? And Silly says, beat her. And he starts to beat on Sophia. And Sophia starts this relationship that's not healthy. All because he can't handle her. And she leaves him with the children. So I believe they have about like 3 children, maybe more, maybe 4. They have children, and her sisters come and get her, and she leaves. She leaves. Okay, so at some point, Harpo starts to work on a juke joint. So Albert has a lot of land. Okay, and I'm not sure, I can't remember the book. I read the book a couple times, but I can't remember quite every detail from the book in the movie. But there are a couple things that kind of stand out, but I'm not sure if it's explicitly stated how they have so much land. Albert's dad, I believe, was white. I think he's white, and that's why Albert's dad is so fair. And Albert's dad allotted a lot of land to Albert's dad, and Albert's dad allotted a lot of land to his son, which is Albert. So they have a lot of land. Okay, and Harpo, who is Albert's son, he was able to build a juke joint. A juke joint is basically like a little bar, a little spot where people can socialize, and they can have bands and singers come. It's a little hangout spot, right? And so they're able to build it. In the meanwhile, Silly and Suge, they are getting closer. And Suge gets well enough to be able to sing, and get back into the swing of things for herself. And so she sings at the juke joint one night, and Sophia comes back with her new man, Buster. Okay, Buster's a boxer. Okay, and so Harpo is also dating a woman who is very fair skinned, more than likely biracial herself, and Harpo is a little bit mad at Sophia because Sophia showed up with her new man, but Sophia is so cute. It's like you can't be mad at her too long. So they start dancing for Harpo and Sophia start dancing a little bit. But Squeak is the person that Harpo's dating. And she's like, Harpo, who this woman? And Harpo was like, can a man dance with his own wife? And Squeak is mad. She like, nah, that she left him. And Sophia's like, fine with me. Like, okay, if there's a problem, I don't need to be involved. She said, fine with me. Like, I'm okay. Right? She wasn't really trying to fight. But Squeak caught herself slapping Sophia. Why did she do it? When she slapped Sophia, people started to move away. Like the guy that was at the piano was like, time to go. He closed the little top to the keyboard and rolled out like, time to go. People started backing up because Sophia, it seems like she, number one, I guess when there's a little confrontation in a juke joint, you don't want to stay. Like, is usually going to be a little bit of an avalanche. One fight is going to start other fights, and you probably just want to get out of Dodge, period. Or also, it could be that Sophia has had a reputation for herself to not take no mess. So, once Squeak slapped Sophia, people started to like back off. The smart people started to back off, okay? But Sophia balled that fist up and punched the crap out of Squeak. And then it caused the whole juke joint started fighting, okay? Because then someone tried to get at Harpo, Mr. jumped in it, and it was like a whole fight. And so Silly is there, and actually Suge grabbed Silly wanted to see everything because it was a lot of excitement, but Suge grabbed Silly and they got out of there. They go back to the house and they have a lesbian experience. Yes, they do. So Silly basically has said something like, no one finds me beautiful. When she smiles, she doesn't smile with her teeth. She always covers her mouth with her hand. And so Suge had basically helped her to uncover, her mouth and look at herself in the mirror. That scene is not what happens in the book, okay? It's not about looking at herself in the mirror and looking at her smile, okay? They look at something way more below in the book, okay? So they looking at her, hoo-ha, okay, in the book. So they have a little lesbian experience or whatever. So at some point, a couple of different things happen, and it's very hard to watch. It's another hard scene. So before I get to that scene, let's talk about Suge leaving. Suge is ready to get back on the road. Sophia wants to go too. She wants to say something, but it's in front of Mr. So even though she thought it was her time to go, she gets too scared to say she wants to go with Suge away from Mr. Her opportunity is lost and she actually faints. So that's one scene that kind of happened. Suge leaves. She's back on the road, traveling, singing, whatever, with her band. The other scene that's really hard is that Sophia is out with her children, and I forget this. This is one character, I can't remember her name. She's a mean old little bitty, is what I can say. Miss Millie. Miss Millie is a white woman who she sees Sophia and Sophia's children, and she's squeezing their cheeks, and they're like crying. You know how no one wants their. First of all, a lot of kids are afraid of strangers. That's number one. Number two, a stranger all up in their face is pinching their little cheeks and stuff. So Miss Millie is like, "Oh, these children are so clean. Would you like to be my maid?" And Sophia looking at her like, "Hell, no, I don't want to be your maid." Back then, you couldn't talk to people like that. White people like that. You just can't talk to people like white people like that. So they're like, "What? What did she just say?" She said, "I said, hell no." And so she gets slapped. She ain't playing that. Okay? She ain't playing the whole slap thing. And so she punches this white guy. And they hit her with a back of the gun. And she gets in prison for striking the mayor. Because she said hell no to the mayor's wife. So she ends up in jail. What the movie doesn't show you is that Harpo's girlfriend Squeak, who's very fair-skinned, they put a lot of extra makeup on her to make her really, really white, and they send her to the prison to try and get Sophia out of prison. She's like, okay, they're gonna pretend that Sophia works for Squeak as a white woman, and they don't buy it. They actually beat Squeak up, rape her, and send her on her way. So she's not successful in getting Sophia out of jail, but Squeak tried. So this is where the community kind of comes together. There's going to be differences, right? People are going to have their issues. Sophia and Squeak had a whole fight in a juke joint, right? But it still didn't mean that Squeak wasn't going to try and help, okay? So Squeak tried. She ended up getting assaulted. Sophia ends up spending some time in jail with the droopy eye, because when she got hit with the butt of the gun, you know, it caused some damage. You know, it caused some. I think she ended up going blind in one eye. One eye gets drooped. I think she actually had some kind of a brain injury. It explains a little bit more in the book. She had some kind of a brain injury that's not treated. No one cares, you know, that she got injured. All they care about is the fact that she said hell no. Somebody hits her, she hits them back, and she ends up in jail for assault when she got assaulted. So it's tragic. So anyway, I'm trying to speed it up as much as I can. What the book doesn't explain is that Shug actually is wealthy in her own right. She's doing well, okay? She does so well that when she comes up off the road, she's able to build her own house. Awesome, okay? Like how the book describes the house, I'll never forget it. It describes this house as like being like I would want to, if they could redo this house in the new remake, I would just want to see how they do it, okay? Very unique, her own design. When they do visit in the movie, so Shug comes back to visit around the holiday. I'm not sure exactly which holiday it is. I think it's Thanksgiving. She comes back with her new man. Silly and Mister are so excited that Shug has come back to visit, but she comes back with a man. They're like not happy about it. They're like, she coming back with a man, you know? It's like she belongs to us, you know. Silly has her feelings, you know, for Shug, and so does Mister. They both like her in a relationship kind of way, separately but together. But anyway, her new man does bond, you know, somewhat in the movie with Mister, who is Albert. So Shug and Silly, you know, they start to talk, like they're like friends, you know, like talk together. And one day Shug goes to the mailbox and finds a letter from Nettie, Silly's sister, and you know, she gives it to Silly, and they read it and stuff. And so they're like, look, there must be more. There gotta be more letters. So while Albert and Suge's husband are out in the field drunk having a good time, they start searching the house and they find a stack of letters. Nettie had been writing Silly for years, unanswered, unopened letters. Mister didn't even open the letters. He just collected them and put them under a floorboard in a box. Isn't that horrible? You got love in the world somewhere and no one wants to let you know that. Like, that is horrible. That's the worst thing ever a person can do, is withhold a caring person from someone when you don't care that much about that person yourself. So anyway, they find the letters, and Nettie writes that she doesn't even, she's like, maybe you're not alive, you know, I'm here, I'm alive. So Nettie tells the story that she actually goes to Africa with a what do you call those people that go to different countries to preach? What do you call those people? It's a name for those people. Give me a moment. I'm going to look up the name because I'm drawing a blank. Give me a moment, y'all. I gotta hurry up. I got an appointment in less than 30 minutes. Missionary. I found the word, missionary. So she actually goes to Africa with these missionaries, and the missionaries just so happen to be, ding ding ding, the preacher and the preacher's wife who took Silly's children. Isn't that awesome news? Like, Alice Walker is an awesome writer, and I read a couple of her other books. There was one book called The Bluest. Did she write The Bluest Eye? Let me just double check before I say that. Or was it Toni Morrison? I think Toni Morrison wrote that one. Yeah, Toni Morrison. Okay, I thought Alice Walker wrote that one, but I think I read. Let me see. What else did I read that Alice Walker wrote? And she died recently too. Uh-oh. My battery's getting low. Let me hurry up. So, I'm going through a list. I don't see anything that kind of stay. I know I read a couple of her other books. But anyway. So, anyway. That was awesome. That was an awesome twist that Nettie was able to help raise Silly's children with the preacher and his wife in Africa. So, Silly gets more angry. She gets more angry at the fact that Mr. would do that to her, okay? Mr. actually, like, he wants Silly to cater to him, basically. Like, like when he calls, she better come running, right? And so he's, you know, calling her more and not paying attention, and she's actually reading Nettie's letters, and she's disguising it like she's reading the Bible. So she has the Bible, but she has Nettie's letters in there, and she's reading. So he doesn't know that she's found those letters. And so he was calling her in the movie. He's calling her, and she doesn't hear. She's in the fields, and he walks up to her and pops her so hard, her nerve starts to bleed. He's like, "I've been calling you. I'm ready for my shave." So that's one of the scenes. There's a scene where after he slaps her, she's on the porch getting ready to shave him. Okay, poor man can't shave himself. You know, he only got two hands when he need hers too. You know, so she is sharpening the blade, getting ready to shave him, and Suge is out actually out painting her toenails or whatever. And Suge asked one of the children walking by where Silly is, and the little boy says, "Fixing the shave, mister." And Suge is thinking like, she may actually be ready to kill him at this point. Hey guys, I am back. I had to, my son came and knocked on my door, and then I had to charge this anyway. I'm glad though I took a break because I got on my phone. I always get Toni Morrison and Alice Walker mixed up. So Alice Walker wrote The Color Purple. She is still alive. So I definitely misspoke. Toni Morrison did pass away about 4 years ago in August 2019. So I get them mixed up because when I think about books, I think about them in the same genre. I've read books from them both. So, but yeah, I got them totally mixed up. Alice Walker wrote The Color Purple. She was still alive and well, thank God. Okay, so I left off at she's fitting the shave mister, and Suge started thinking like, I don't know, what Silly is thinking, but I know what she's going through. So she, in the movie, I love like how they were mixing scenes. So it went from like Silly sharpening a razor, and it also goes to Nettie being in the town that she's in, where she's at in Africa, and them doing a ceremony where kids, when they get a certain age, they get facial marks. And how they do the marks is they cut into the face. So it kind of goes, like, the scenery is awesome, okay? Like, how they, like, made this book into a movie was really good. This is one of the rare movies where the book was done justice. Like, sometimes you read a book and sometimes you're just like, really? Is that what they came up with? For example, I read this book called I Don't Know How She Does It. And I love that book. At the time when I read that book, I was kind of going through a situation where I just felt like I had so much on my plate. And the book is about a woman who works, and she has children and a husband, and it's just so much that she has to do. And they made it into a movie. The movie starred Sarah Jessica Parker, and I promise you, I couldn't get through the whole movie. I don't even know who else played in it besides Sarah Jessica Parker, but that happens a lot with movies where the books are not done justice. But anyway, I think they did an awesome job. Quincy Jones did an awesome job with the music. Steven Spielberg did an awesome job with, producing and whatever else he does. They did a really good job. Even, like, I think the casting was perfect. So anyway, Suge runs up to the house, okay? And you can tell, like, Silly is resigned to kill Mister. All these years of abuse, sending her sister away, not letting her get her sister's letters. It just was like at the front of her mind. Like, she never says that she was going to kill him, but it's clear she was going to kill Mister, okay? So right when she's getting ready to shave him, like the kids in Nettie's scene that are doing their, tribal markings at the same time they get their faces cut and the blood is dripping, is the same time where Suge grabbed Silly's arm. She has the razor in her arm, and she's like, "Miss Silly, like that knife is looking a little dull." And Mister, he opens his eyes. His eyes are cut, and he opens them, and he's like, "This woman crazy." Like, he realizes too that he got like some mercy, okay, that day, okay? So it goes forward to the scene where they're all eating. I thought it was Thanksgiving. Now when I think about it, it may have been Easter. I don't know. It just seems like everybody's there. They have all the food out. They're having their family dinner. Um, and I should, I forgot something. So at some point, so what happens with Sophia, which is Harpo's ex, is that Miss Millie decides to take her home for a holiday. And Sophia was the person that was helping her with driving. And Miss Millie is like, I'm taking you home, you know, after all these years. She went from being in jail for years to being sent to Miss Millie to be her maid, after all. So she went from one prison to another. Children, she couldn't raise her children, couldn't see her family in this one day. And Sophia is very much not herself. She is not vocal. She keeps her head down. She doesn't have the pride that she used to have. There is one scene where Silly is in the store shopping and she sees Sophia, and Sophia, you know, her vision isn't good. She's moving slow, and so Silly just takes her basket that she has and goes shopping for her, and helps her with that because Sophia's clearly having a hard time. So anyway, she finally, at this particular scene, after Silly finds Nutty's letters and they're having his family dinner, Sophia is finally out of her employment with Miss Millie. Oh, I should say, Miss Millie decides to take Sophia home, you know, to have dinner with her family, and she couldn't even stay because Miss Millie couldn't drive herself away and started to get frazzled and scared of all the men that was there. And Sophia couldn't even stay. Before she even got her coat all the way off, she pulls it back up and she has to leave and take Miss Millie home because Miss Millie couldn't drive herself home, and she wouldn't allow the men to take her home because she couldn't be seen with them by herself. So yeah, it was a mess. So Sophia has gone through a lot, but at this particular dinner, she is outside of Miss Millie's employ. She's able to spend the rest of her days with her family. And anyway, they're at this dinner, and Suge announces that Silly is going with them. They're basically saying, yeah, we had a good time. Our time has come. We're going home, and Silly is coming with us. And Mister is not happy to hear about it. He was like, basically they were kind of making fun of her. Like even his dad had chimed in and was like, you ain't no good cook. This house ain't been cleaned well since my ex-wife. You ain't fit to do nothing but work on somebody's railroad. You're black, you're ugly, you ain't gonna be nothing in your life. And she was like, everything. You know how when you point the finger, you got fingers pointing back at you. She put all them fingers out. Whatever you said to me, reverse back to you. He was even trying to hit her as she was kind of going off with Suge and Suge's husband, and yeah, she reversed those curses onto him. So let's go ahead and move forward. Also, Squeak announces that she's also going with Suge because she wants to sing, and Harpo's not too happy about that. In the book, there's more explained in the book. So in the book, Squeak, and she announces her real name at the table. She says, my name isn't Squeak, it's Mary Ellis, whatever her name is. So anyway, Squeak, Mary Ellis, whatever her name is, she actually runs off with Suge's husband. Suge had a younger husband in the book. He was a young man. He was younger than she was. And Squeak and Mary Ellis have an affair and go off. So that leaves Suge kind of depressed. We also find out in the movie and in the book that the man that Silly thought was her dad and who had impregnated her twice is not her dad. So what happens was that it gives more history about what happened with her mom and her real dad. Okay, so her biological dad and her mom had property, had a business, and he was killed by white men who wanted to take what they had. And so her mom kind of lost her mind, and her mom had Silly and Nettie with her husband, with Silly's biological dad. Her mom kind of lost her mind, And this new guy kind of came in and took things over, started abusing Silly, and her mom died. So Silly and Nettie grew up thinking that this man was the real dad when he wasn't. And so anyway, this stepdad, this abuser, rapist, died. And his new wife, his younger new wife, says something like, you know, and Silly asks her, how did he die? And she says, on top of me. So he was a pervert until the day he died. Old pervert. But anyway, Silly inherited the house and the store, which was her dad's property, her biological dad's property, that she didn't even know about. He left his wife, her stepdad left his younger wife the money. So she got the money, and Silly got the house and the property. So she is free for real, because I believe in the book she stayed with Suge in Suge's house that Suge built. Then when she found out she had this house in the store, she was really free financially. She's free physically from abuse. You know, she don't have to depend on nobody. Finally, okay? And when she gets her sister and her kids back in her life, she'll have a space for them, okay? It just was wonderful. I mean, it's a shame that it took, I think that this book goes from Silly in her teenage years up until she's probably in her 60s, 50s, 60s. So she had to deal with all this stuff for so long. But she gets her due in the end. What the book doesn't say. So in the book, at some point, so Silly ends up opening up her business. So she actually makes clothes. Harpo and Sophia actually get together again, which is awesome because they were always in love. Always. They always loved each other. Harpo always loved Sophia, but he just didn't know how to be a husband. He wasn't taught that. He was taught that he had to be in control. He had to have power and dominion over his wife in the most negative way, which is hitting her, you know. Sophia had a mouth, of course, because she was always in defense mode because of how she grew up. She grew up having to fight for herself, fight to have her own body belong to her and to have a choice. And in her marriage, she had to defend herself. And then in the world where that was the one place where she couldn't defend herself, she didn't know. There was no differentiation between I'm safe at home, I can be myself at home, and to, you know, have to tone it down. Like she shouldn't have had to tone it down. Like saying hell no shouldn't have been a reason to get slapped. But that was the place where she should have toned it down, but she couldn't figure that part out because she had no safe place. And if Harpo would have allowed her to have a safe place, she would have learned, you know, and she wouldn't have had these hard lessons. And so Silly brings it up to Harpo, like, hey, if you wasn't trying to control her, she would have never gotten to that white man's hands to begin with. So it wasn't totally Harpo's fault because Harpo didn't know any better either. The roots of a lot of things was with Mr.'s dad, you know, but he also had, you know, probably had some traumatizing things happen to him. So they kind of learned to, you know, view women as the enemy. And when it comes to their sons, they never was happy for their sons and the spouses that they chose. So Mr. Albert would have probably chosen Suge. He loved Suge, okay? But his dad didn't approve of her. Harpo loved Sophia, but his dad didn't approve of her. And they both lost out on women, you know. Thank goodness Harpo got Sophia back. So anyway, let's move it forward. In the book, Squeak and Harpo have children as well. Sophia, when she got back with Harpo, because Squeak helped raise Sophia's children with Harpo, she was able to help raise Squeak's children with Harpo. Okay, so she was able to redeem her. There's something about motherhood and having that taken away from you. And I think Sophia would have loved to read. In the book, she actually went from working for Miss Millie to working for Miss Millie's daughter. And Miss Millie's daughter had children. Miss Millie's daughter in the book kept trying to put her children in Sophia's face. Like, isn't my baby so cute? And Sophia had to tell her, yeah, your baby is cute for you. I got my own kids. That's basically what she said. She, was able to get out of her employ, with both Miss Millie and with Miss Millie's daughter, which is awesome. But, it's like almost like people don't have empathy. Like, I don't have my own children. Okay, I wasn't able to raise my own children, but here you want to put your children in my face like they should mean more to me than my own family. So that kind of came out in the book. Sophia helping Harpo raise Squeak's children that she had with Harpo. That was in the book. In the movie, Mr. he does go down to immigration. So what happened was Nettie and the preacher's wife, and the kids were in Africa for a long time. They wasn't in Africa so long that when they tried to come back to the United States wasn't sure if they were American or not. That's how long they were there. When they were there, the preacher's wife ended up getting sick and dying. So Nettie ended up getting married to the preacher's husband and, continuing to help raise the children. The children ended up becoming an adult. And Silly's son ended up getting married. So they had been trying to get back to the United States for a while, but they weren't able to. So Mr. actually went to immigration and vouched for their citizenship, and he actually helped them get back to the United States. Now, in the movie, Mr. is in the field watching from a distance when Silly is on the porch and seeing a car pull up and not sure who it is, and seeing the colorful garments that signify Africa, and reuniting with her sister and her children, right? In the book, Mr. is on a porch. Okay, so what happens is that Mr. and Silly at some point had a conversation. They were both in love with Suge, and Suge left. She got married, right? She was doing her thing. And they actually, this is after they broke up. This is after, Silly had left or whatever. They had actually started to become friends. Mr. was telling her how she reminded him of a bird, how she could just fly away. And they were actually friends at the, toward the end of the book. So he was actually on the porch with family and friends, like he was part of the group on the porch and watching Silly be reunited with her family at the end. So it was awesome. It's like a full circle kind of book. I should also mention that Suge, because she was worldly, okay, she was a singer, she had children out of wedlock, her dad was a pastor, her mom was also part of the church. They raised her children to be part of the church, so she wasn't a part of their lives. And she had been trying to reconnect with her dad. She loved her daddy, but her dad, cut her off, as a lot of religions teach people to do, right? Which is definitely not a loving thing to do, but people do it. And she actually reunited with her family in church. So that was a big part of the movie. That was like it was such a touching moment in the movie. I love that scene. I love the music in the scene. I love she was able to hug her daddy at that part of the movie, and he had ignored her for so long because she was supposed to be out there, but she was just looking for love. She had it, with Mr., but he rejected her. Along with as his dad wanted him to, but he had rejected her for so long, but she actually reunited with him. So it's a full circle movie. I would definitely suggest reading the book. I'm guessing that when they put this remake out, it's not going to be exactly how the 1985 movie goes. I'm guessing they're going to put more elements of the book that was missing from the first movie into the second movie. So it's going to fill in more holes, if there's any, that you notice from the movie 1985. Like, how did this happen? How did that happen? It's probably going to fill in more holes in the story, because the book definitely explains a lot more about relationships, people coming together, reunite. Like I said, Squeak and Sophia had a whole fight, but Squeak still tried to get Sophia out of jail. Mr. and Silly became friends. Okay, they were friends. He was on a porch. They had a conversation. Silly is a lesbian. She finds out that she doesn't like men. Like, she's been through so much trauma and abuse that she no longer likes men anymore. So that kind of is mentioned. It was no smile in the mirror with Suge. It was the whole vajayjay in the mirror. So I wonder how much of those things are going to be in the movie. So that is my review. I'm thinking that this has gone on for quite a long time. But I will definitely talk to you guys very, very soon. Okay? Have a good rest of your day. Today's Monday, so I'm guessing I'll probably try and do another video by midweek. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do next time. Maybe I'll make a meal and we'll do something like that in the kitchen. We'll see. But I will definitely talk to you soon. Have a good rest of your day and week. See ya. Bye. Hey y'all, I forgot something about the movie. So I was in the kitchen about to clean up the dishes and heat up my crab cake from yesterday. I got one more left. But anyway, I forgot. So there's a scene in the movie where Sophia goes through the cornfields and she said, she confronts Silly. She said, you told Harper to beat me. So I remember I told you guys that Harper had asked Silly what to do with Sophia. And she said, beat her. So Sophia had like a black eye and she confronts Silly and said, you told Harper to beat me. So, I'm not exactly sure how the book laid it out, but I do know this. Remember in the movie where there's a song about can't sleep at night and you wonder why? Maybe God is trying to tell you something. Okay, so if you watch the movie, you know what I'm talking about. So, in the book, Silly couldn't sleep because she had told Harper to beat Sophia. She couldn't sleep and she couldn't figure out why. So she actually had to make amends to Sophia in the book for telling Harper to beat her. So that whole, not the whole thing that happened in the movie, but there is a situation where there is a come to between Sophia and Silly because of her telling Harper to beat her. So I definitely wanted to not forget. That was I'm sure I missed some other stuff, but I was just sitting here thinking, I was like, yeah, that's in the book. And I'm glad they made it. Quincy Jones, I'm sure he had to read the book because he put the music together. The music fit what happened in the book. So that song where, you know, they said, if you can't sleep at night, God's trying to tell you something. She really couldn't sleep because she felt like she had wronged Sophia. And she really did. Just because Mr. beating on you don't mean that's the only way in a marriage to deal with conflict. You know? It shouldn't be a way at all to deal with conflict, you know? But that was something that beating people has been a common way. I'm going to say for African Americans, African people in America, because of the lineage of slavery. A lot of times, that's where it comes from. The roots are control, as the master did, and it was a way to control the children because no one wants their kids to be beat up on. So this is a way to get your kids straight, quick, before master gets them. And so it's kind of passed down from husband to wife, to the kids, you know, like you ever see that poster where it says the husband will hit the wife will hit the kids will kick the dog, you know, like it kind of, that's kind of how it's leaked down. So they didn't really know how to deal with each other, you know, but Silly knew it was wrong, and she definitely, because it wasn't something that was a part of their marriage until she mentioned it. Now, it's possible that Mr. would have told Harper to beat Sophia, but the fact that it came from Silly and she knows the damage that it did to her, the fact that she recommended it, it made her feel really, really bad. So that's all for my review, and I will definitely talk to you guys soon. All right, bye.